How long is Devontae Adams' turf toe going to keep him out? What does Melvin Gordon's return mean for Austin Eckler? And should you be more concerned with Mark Andrews' foot injury than you probably are? Plus, the Week 2 overall leaders in the 2019 Football Guys Players Championship, Chris and Andrew Whitney, drop by to talk about Sharky waiver wire ads, the Patriots' fantasy mess in their backfield, and much, much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Everybody, if you got what it takes, 'cause I'm KRS and I'm on the mic.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
With the master rhymer, that's the lead behind the video rapper. You know the top rhymer, tapper.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all of you Balkaholics and Gerzak addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, what's the deal with Chris Godwin's hip? A Would You Rather with Scary Terry himself, and Chris and Andrew Whitney, the father-son duo that led the 2019 Football Guys Players Championship, heading into Week 3, join the show to talk about how they put that behemoth together. Shout out to the chat room right now. You can post your questions you might have in there. Connect with us on Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak. 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA if you want to give us a call and chat. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour and highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com is where to send all those emails. Our producer and mutual friend Rob, as well as our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce, will do their best job to get to the tweets, the emails, the questions, everything, and the fantasy feedback coming up as we close out the show coming up in about 45 minutes or so. Exciting night for me last night, Dave. Got to go to the Packers-Eagles Thursday night football game, live and in person at legendary, historic Lambeau Field. And I got to tell you, I have left the game. I've left games at Lambeau Field with some bad tastes in my mouth before, but that one was probably the foulest. Really, really rough.
Oh, yeah? Tell me about it, Balky.
I don't have much to say other than the Packers are a fraud. The defense was beating up on Little Sisters of the Poor, and Aaron Rodgers should consider a career change.
That was Aaron Rodgers' fault?
It was everybody's fault. Cut them all, contract the team, moving on.
They had first and goal at the 1, right?
First and goal at the 1.
And they threw 4 consecutive times?
Yes, one was an RPO, so they could have run it. Rodgers chose not to, which is on him. Whatever.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All right.
Good win on the Eagles. Hey, good win for anybody who loves Eric Balkman this week because you get a double shot of the RotoViz high-stakes lowdown this week. 2 of them drop, with one with Bill Querbees, who was 3rd place in the Football Guys Players Championship, and another one with Rob Vieira, 9th place in the FFPC main event. They're both available on Apple Podcasts, really anywhere you get podcasts. Also, rotoviz.com/podcast, also available on the Blue Wire Podcast Network as well. So make sure you are checking those out. I want to open with breaking news, Dave. Breaking news. The Rap Sheet just reported this 4 minutes ago. He sent out a tweet.
Antonio Brown signed with?
No.
Oh, forgot it.
Yeah, the Arkham Asylum is where he's going to be catching footballs. No. At NFL Total Access on Twitter, and this was tweeted by Ian Rappaport, there is a good chance the Chargers running back Melvin Gordon plays on Sunday, a change of the original plans. And we're going to get into this with our guests tonight who have Austin Eckler on their Football Guys team that was leading everybody after Week 2. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it looks like Melvin Gordon's going to play. Bad news for anybody who had Justin Jackson in as their flex, me, and are going to have to get him out of there because he was in a walking boot today, Dave, and probably going to miss a few weeks of action. Melvin Gordon, you rolling him out there right away?
Yeah, oddly enough, I have that decision in Carrington because I had Justin Jackson starting. I think Le'Veon Bell on bye or something, so I might have to start him. Otherwise, it was my options weren't great. It was like Pro-Sice or some crap.
Yeah, I picked up Pro-Sice in a few leagues. By the way, I was just thinking about this before we went on the air. Remember the old WCOF days in the early days of the FFPC where waivers just went through on Friday nights? There was no Wednesday night waivers.
Oh, yeah.
And like we'd all be waiting anxiously on Friday night to see who we got. And now the Friday night waiver period is kind of like fixing up all the oops that you did on Wednesday.
Yeah, I missed the kicker. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? You just mentioned WCOF. And Alex, I was on a conference call with Alex and Joe Bryant, David Dodds. We were talking about the Football Guys contest for next year. And Alex just was talking about something. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember in the old whack-off days I ran the playoff contest. And it's just so funny. It's just I forgot that Alex calls it whack-off.
Whack-off, yeah.
Yeah, so I was laughing to myself, and now I'm laughing again.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. And I think the fact that it's Alex saying whack-off makes it even funnier.
Yeah, and he didn't think anything of it, so that's just how he says it all the time. So
no, I like it. Listen, I'm on board with the whack-off.
Yeah.
Thanks to Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Also, we can get into this a little bit. This is more of a roster question, but Ian Rappaport reporting, and as well as John Terry in the chat room tonight reporting that Justin Jackson could miss a few weeks because of a calf injury. As I stated, he was in a walking boot after he got hurt in yesterday's practice. Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler seem to be controlling things now in the Chargers' backfield. Dave, are you willing to drop Justin Jackson in leagues with the bye weeks coming up?
Yeah, I think in a redraft, I think he would make sense. I mean, if he's going to miss a few weeks, he was not that great of a player, and clearly he's now the number 3 there. There's got to be somebody else you'd rather have.
Yeah, well,
like
and
a
you might,
defense.
Yeah, and you might need some, to use that extra roster spot on a defense or a quarterback or what have you coming up. And I don't even think Justin Jackson, quite frankly, was all that involved in the offense even when Gordon was out. So I'm not sure how much you're really missing out on here.
Yeah,
so
true that.
I'm on board with dropping him. Faux show. NFL.com's Ian Rappaport, busy guy tonight, reports that Devontae Adams' turf toe, isn't believed to be serious. Now, the quote from Rappaport, Adams had his MRI today, Friday, on his toe injury, and sources say it's not believed to be serious. The team will be careful with their star pass catcher, but if he misses time, it may not be much. Now, the Packers, after playing last night, are on a mini bye now. They don't play again until next Sunday when they take on the Cowboys, who actually will be, I think they're the Sunday night game this week, so it'll be kind of a sort of a shorter week for them a little bit. Packers coming off a longer one. Dave, with turf toe, I don't know if you've ever dealt with it, but to me,
I did actually.
Okay, do you think that 10 days is enough for it to heal? I don't. He said in the post-game interview last night he didn't even want to try putting his shoe back on. He was in so much pain.
Yeah, I mean, granted, high school versus whatever, and these guys get world-class rehab treatments, but I think you're looking. If he was not able to play in a game where he was crucially needed at the end, he really was. They could have used him. I think it's got to be a few weeks. I think it's one of those ones where he doesn't really practice much next week, and then they rule him out, and then he's like, oh, he's still day-to-day, and maybe like week 5 or 6, maybe 6 he comes back. I think it's going to be a few weeks. I kicked in high school, and I couldn't kick it. It was pretty debilitating, actually.
I'm trying to think when the Packers have a bye. I think it is week 7, which would be interesting for Adams, but I look at this Packers offense now and how we deal with this for fantasy. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is more interesting as a flex guy.
Yeah, he was really annoying last night because I was hoping. No, the Eagles were down 2 corners, weren't they? They were down some. So I was hoping
they basically had 3 healthy corners.
Yeah, I thought MVS would actually have a good game, and clearly they went only to Adams for the most part.
Rodgers threw for 422 yards. He did spread it out. I mean, Jimmy Graham had 61 yards receiving. Geronimo Allison took his face off the milk carton. He got in there for 52 yards. And Aaron Jones, I think, had like 30-some yards receiving too. So you look at this Dallas matchup. It's probably not going to be a good matchup next Sunday for Week 5. But Allison, I think, and MVS are probably going to be your 2 starters. Dallas' secondary is so good, though. It's going to be tough. As tempting as it is to deploy those guys, it might be a weird week of a lot of running the football for Green Bay.
Yeah, and they're not very good at that either.
No. Did you see?
Aaron Jones is not really that great of a running back. Can we make that? Are we clear?
Yeah, he has not shown me much this year.
He looks undersized, and not really as fast as an undersized guy should be.
Right.
And it sucks because I picked him up in a few dynasty leagues via trade, and I'm not too happy about it. Even though he's putting up points, And Jamal Williams looks like he might have, passed on last night almost. I mean, hopefully he's okay.
He says he's okay. He said the only thing that was hurt was his pride.
Yeah, well, that's fine. So hopefully he's good. And but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things there. Let's not dwell on it too much. I don't want to make you,
No, I'm good. I'm good. But talking about Aaron Jones, 6 catches for like 30-some yards, plus he gets in the end zone last night. So from a fantasy perspective, you had to be pretty happy, even though he wasn't very efficient rushing the ball.
Yeah, for sure. He was very involved in the passing game, and partially that's due to Jamal Williams missing time,
right.
I think. But I thought he looked pretty good catching the ball.
Yeah, which was one of his bugaboos, sort of, catching the ball in pass pro. And he showed that he could do both last night.
Yeah.
Moving on here, Dave, as we talk about Chris Godwin here, shifting to the receiver position. He is officially questionable for the Buccaneers game against the Rams, according to Scott Smith on Twitter. He did not practice Wednesday or Thursday because of a hip injury. He is going to be going up against Nickel Roby-Coleman. There's the corner that's going to be covering him, and he is among the league's top 10 full-time slot cornerbacks in quarterback rating on targets into his coverage. Yards allowed per coverage snap, as well as cover snaps per reception. This is all according to Roto World. Godwin, if he's healthy, I think you got to trot him out there, but you have to lower expectations a little bit. And if you have a stacked receiver core, I could see sitting him against the Rams.
Yeah, and it was really disappointing after we hyped up Godwin last week, and he laid a goose egg, and Mike Evans went crazy. Now, granted, no one was sitting Mike Evans because we said that Godwin was awesome, but nevertheless, yeah, you got to temper your expectations against the Rams.
It's tough for me. I think I own Godwin in I own him in 2 leagues, and I'm starting him in both right now. I was actually a little bit nervous because, it's one of those things where if he doesn't practice on Friday, he's probably not going on Sunday. So looks like he is going to give it a go, but still be keep an eye on those inactives on Sunday for Godwin just to make sure he is active. Julian Edelman also questionable for the Patriots. The battle of the undefeated as the 3-0 Patriots take on the 3-0 Bills. Mike Reese on Twitter is sending this out. Now, if Edelman does not play, it looks like it's going to be Jacoby Myers in the slot if Edelman sits out. NFL Network's Michael Giardi says that Edelman is not a lock to suit up Sunday. However, he is trending in the right direction. The Bills' defense has allowed 185 passing yards per game dating back to week 1 of last season, Dave. That is best in the NFL. They are looking really good right now, and as much as we would love to say fire up Edelman, this is another guy that, maybe it's a little bit different with him because I think Godwin has a higher ceiling than Edelman, but Edelman has a much higher floor. I think that
Edelman plays.
And I think that I don't want to say he's matchup proof, but going up against a tough secondary, I mean, what's worst case scenario for him? Like it's still probably like
5 for 50.
I was just going to say 5 for 55, and you'll take that. That's double-digit points. I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, you can't be loving it necessarily, but you take it for sure. What was I going to say? So Edelman doesn't play. I'm interested to see what Jacoby Myers would do. I mean, Myers was a true preseason superstar, so if he doesn't play, Myers might get a lot of run and do pretty well.
I will be looking for Darren Armani from FantasyMojo.com, who is a great follow for all of your FFPC and FPC ownership percentages, waiver wire runs, everything like that. I'll be interested to see what happens tomorrow when he sends out his tweet to see how many people picked up Jacoby Myers and what he went for. Like if those Edelman owners were a little bit proactive and they wanted to make sure that they're covering themselves, that would make some sense. I think
Armani said something about Nelson Aguilar was the most picked up player last week, and he was starting 59% of FFPC leagues last night for a 0.
Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, Jeffrey was back, so.
You guys,
Aguilar, he's just an average player.
Did you notice Carson Wentz? I think only threw for 180 yards last night, or 160 yards. It was pretty low.
Was it?
Yeah,
a lot of touchdowns.
He had 3 touchdowns, but they ran the ball so well they didn't have to throw. Another that could be the Achilles heel of this Packers team. That rush
I feel like
defense.
This is a local show. It's too much Packers.
Well, I mean, honestly, 200 rush yards against Minnesota. You give up 150 to Denver last week, 175 to Philly last night. It's just like you don't need to pass when you play Green Bay. All right, moving on. I promise no more Packer talk for the next 2 minutes. We're going to bring in tonight's guest. While the father in this father-son duo has been playing fantasy football for nearly 4 decades, he actually credits his son as being the brains behind their operation. And going into last week, those brains led them to the top of the 2019 Footballguys Players Championship leaderboard. They're here tonight to tell us all about it. Please welcome into the show Chris and Andrew Whitney. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Always appreciate father-son duos coming on, and this is something that we always love to talk about. Chris, let me ask you this: like, did you have to get Andrew interested in it, or because I know you've been playing for forever, or was this something that Andrew was like, hey, Dad, when can I have my own team? When can I have my own team? When are we going to play against each other? How did it go when you introduced him to fantasy football?
Well, they've been doing. He's been doing a lot. He did a lot of his things on his own when he was in college. Certainly in high school, they both kind of he and his brother followed my team quite a bit. It's mostly for us. I mean, it was the fantasy football league we've been doing for almost 40 years. Came out of college. It's a very it's not sort of high stakes. It's more about for us. It's more about the golf and the get together in Vegas. For him, he's taken it sort of us to another level in terms of getting us in with FFPC, getting us into a little bit more higher stakes games because it's clearly something where having more knowledge helps a lot, and Andrew has certainly worked on it. So I think it's more that it appealed to him. I think it's always appealed to him, and it appealed to his kind of sense. He was an engineer going in college. He's a consultant now, so I think it appeals to that in a lot of ways.
Well, you answered my next question for Andrew that he's a consultant. But Chris, tell us all what you do for a living.
I'm a pediatrician in San Jose. So I've been I graduated from Georgetown, so moved out to California in 1990. So have been a pediatrician since 1993.
Dave, any questions for your kid's health at all for Chris Whitney tonight?
My daughter has got a little eye infection, but
Does she really? Or are you making this up for the show?
she did have something, but what the hell am I going to ask him?
Could be a sty. Might be a sty.
I don't know what it is.
I remember growing up, anytime I had a problem with my eye, I'd be like, I tell my dad, I'm like, I have something wrong with my eye. He'd be like, is it a sty? It could be a sty. He always said that all the time. I never understood.
No pediatrician type questions. That's a great profession.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right, Dave, and send me a copay. I think that's exactly right.
But if you ask them in public, ground insurance, yeah. My deductible's $13,000, so this healthcare is not working.
No,
listen. If you ask him in public, he will say, "I'm not a doctor." Though he doesn't want to, be approached by random people and offering some help advice.
All these stupid people asking for advice, so I'll leave that alone.
All right, yeah. Well, let's keep that on the down low here. Let's get into fantasy, guys. Here, Dave, I think you have a question for Andrew about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, so Dalvin Cook, you took him at the 205, and actually he was creeping up into the first round, so that was kind of nice value for you guys that you were still able to get him. But other players like Joe Mixon and Todd Gurley were there. What made you go with Dalvin Cook in that situation?
Well, just really quick, want to shout out the RHFL, the league that my dad's been running for 40 years, and my friend's league, the St. Ed's League. So shout out to all those guys. But our strategy going into the RHFL, to the FFPC draft this year, was we wanted DeAndre Hopkins first, and if we didn't get him, we were taking Dalvin Cook. And we were sold on that from the get-go. So we would have taken him 8 rounds earlier, or 8 picks earlier without an issue. And I think when you're drafting that early, you're really looking for what are the main question marks I'm noticing in this guy. Somebody like Joe Mixon, he had so many offensive line issues going into that year with multiple injuries in the preseason. Todd Gurley had his own knee issues going in. I think for us it was more like Nick Chubb, David Johnson were on the tiers of guys we were looking at with Dalvin Cook, where we thought they were on good offenses. We didn't think they had backups behind them that were going to really threaten them. And the floor was very high, and we saw a receiving game that could come to them and give them a weekly floor as well.
Andrew, I noticed in this draft, this Football Guys draft that you were in, there is one team, I think they're at the 4 spot. Two. Well, I guess I don't know if they're at the 4 spot, but I know that they were 2 picks away from you. I'll tell you that. They doubled up on tight ends. They started off tight end in their draft. When you and Chris saw this, did you guys start looking at that position a little bit closer, or did that not really affect your original pre-draft strategy?
I wouldn't say that it affected our pre-draft strategy that much. He took I think Travis Kelce first round, obviously, and then Zach Ertz coming back as George Kittle was already off the board. And we knew in our mind that those guys weren't going to be on the table for us where we were picking, not where we were considering. So more for us as we got into round 4, we were looking at the guys who were going to be picking after us and what they might want. And so when it got to us in round 5 and we saw David Njoku on the board, who we viewed as, at the time, up there with O.J. Howard, Hunter Henry, Evan Engram, we pounced on him right then. Because we knew that one guy's already locked up 2 top tight ends. A lot of guys don't have a tight end currently. We can't wait another 8 picks before we get a tight end that we think is solid. So, I mean, we may have been wrong in that regards, and now David Njoku's injury has really put us in a tough bind in the FFPC this year. But that's just the way it goes, I think.
I like that, too. I do believe in that, Bulky, where if someone goes tight end or whatever to try and disrupt it, if you have the opportunity to grab one of the other second-tier tight ends, and the second tier I'm saying, the guys going at 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8, 9, kind of at their ADP or around it, I think is generally a good move because those tight ends are going to get pushed up.
Yeah, you put that's more added pressure on everybody else too. As long as you can jump in on that, it will definitely make things more difficult on your fellow league owners. Talking with Chris and Andrew Whitney, who led the 2019 Footballguys Players Championship heading into this past week. We promised it, we teased it at the top of the show, Dave, that we were going to talk to Chris about this Austin Ekeler, Melvin Gordon business. Let's get to that.
Yep. So Austin Ekeler, has he had his run, or is he? Or maybe they're going to trot Gordon out there and he's going to go ahead and sprain his ankle right away because he hasn't had any training camp. And the Chargers are the worst team in all of football as far as injuries. They always get their guys hurt all the time because I think their trainers suck or their coaching staff is no good. Anyway, there is a question. So Melvin Gordon's going to be back, let's say for week 5. Let's say let's ignore this week to some extent. How likely is it you'll still be rolling Ekeler out in your starting lineup? Because he was getting play a lot of times last year, even when Gordon was out there.
Well, I think very likely for a couple of reasons. One, we don't have a lot of – our depth currently at running back behind him is Deion Lewis and Ito Smith, who are not working at this party I'm sitting at, but they might as well be on some level, and for how much they're scoring. And I suspect that from our standpoint, we were both pretty high on Ekeler. We had him last year. He did a lot even in games where Gordon played. I think it really gives a different, as the third down back, it gives that offense a lot more pizzazz, for lack of a better term, and speed, which I think they're kind of based on in a lot of ways. I think the Eckler's big problem last year was when he got that concussion, and that really kind of laid him out for us, and that really hurt us a lot because he was contributing. I mean, I don't know the exact number where he finished up, but I think he was close to the top 25 overall. Andrew knows the specifics, I'm sure, better than I do. But I think we're going to be using. I expect Ekeler to keep going on. Independent of whether Gordon kind of continues, will he go on with these huge numbers that he's having? No, probably not. But I expect he'll do exactly what we kind of thought before the season.
Andrew, let me follow this up and ask you about this. Did that factor into it, knowing that Ekeler had some standalone value even with Gordon last year, that you guys were willing to take him at that spot, knowing that if Gordon did come back, look, this is still a guy who's going to be flex-worthy?
Yeah, I think my dad almost killed me during the draft because he wanted to draft him 2 rounds earlier, and I kept saying, no, we should really, we don't have to take him yet. It's fine. So, by the time he was still available in the 6th round, we're we have to take him now. And that's the challenge with co-owning a team. Having him last year with Melvin Gordon, we really got to the point where we were confident every single week in starting both of them and putting them both out on the field and not having any issues because that team was scoring a lot of touchdowns. They were throwing the ball to running backs a lot, getting those PPR points. We knew the floor was there, and we knew that the upside of Melvin Gordon holding out for 8 weeks or coming back and getting injured is a potential league-winning pick. So,
yeah, no
if anything,
question.
I wish we had taken where we chose David Njoku, and we could have gotten somebody else there. But
well, hindsight is always 20/20 in that case. We'll
exactly.
We'll see how the Njoku tale of 2019 ends. You guys made an interesting pickup in this league Wednesday night, Chris. He only cost you $1. but tell us a little bit about what you guys are expecting from Bills rookie tight end Dawson Knox going forward.
Well, he clearly sort of showed out a little bit this week. And I mean, I think that on some level, Allen's having, I think, a lot more success than anybody anticipated, and the Bills, frankly, are having more success. And part of, I think Allen is still kind of a young quarterback, although albeit with a strong arm. He did kind of, Clay didn't have as much success as with, say, Tyrod Taylor last year. But when he was healthy, they still look for him. I think that young quarterbacks tend to look for tight ends. I think that if you get the guy who's the number one tight end, I think it makes good sense. If you look at our roster currently, unfortunately, we have the Njoku thing has really kind of put us into into limbo. We have Matt Lacoste, we have Everett, and we have Knox now. And we
Jimmy
also
Graham.
have Jimmy Graham, who we did a great job not playing last night. So anyway, so I think Knox is gonna deliver good numbers for us the rest of the year. Again, and a lot of this week I left the waivers to Andrew a little bit, so we were kind of looking for somebody who might be able to help us just to upgrade the overall talent on our bench. I think is really what we need.
Yeah, he ran a 4.51 40 at the combine, Balky. And that RotoViz, they have their tight end model. Knox did not quite fit the model of a successful dynasty. This is a dynasty more of a prospect, but it was only because of production issues. And I think he was a converted something or other. I don't know exactly.
Lineman?
No, it's something else. But I don't think he's been playing
Shortstop?
All right, let's just, you're a little snide comments. This is, Bulk, you don't embarrass me in the guest shot. You only make supposed to do this when there's no guests.
Exactly. Didn't you pick up Dawson Knox in the league? I feel like I saw one of the waiver wire emails that went out. I feel like you picked him up too.
Yeah, in like one dynasty league. I tried to get him in others, but he actually was going for pretty good money in dynasty leagues my private leagues I'm in.
Carrington, weren't you going to try to pick him up there? Waivers go through on that tomorrow. I bet you have a bid in on him.
I do have a bid in on him. That's why I asked you about if you're going to grab it.
Yeah, I'm not going to grab it.
I forgot to get him on Wednesday.
We're talking with Chris.
We always talk about our private leads too, guys, just like you guys do.
Yes, especially when we have the guests.
We just make you guys sit here and listen to our crap.
Yeah. Chris and Andrew Whitney, heading into week three, leading the Footballguys Players Championship out of 8,400 teams. Regarding a pickup, and I think this is so crucial, and the best high-stakes players out there always seem to be 1 or 2 weeks ahead of the curve, and I think you guys were in Philip Dorsett here, Andrew. What kinds of numbers do you think Dorsett's going to end up putting up for the Patriots the rest of the way?
I think the reason we chose Dorsett is we saw a ceiling that was really high, a good wide receiver too, and there was a lot of just uncertainty with what was going on with the Patriots then. And when you have Josh Gordon and at the time Antonio Brown on your roster, there's just so much uncertainty there. And clearly Brady has demonstrated, and the narrative is built along these lines the whole summer, that Brady trusts him. Brady says he knows where he's going to be. He goes where he wants him to go. And I don't always know what to make of that trust, but clearly Brady is one of the guys who it seems to be important to. Otherwise, Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola probably don't have the careers they have. But if Philip Dorsett is that guy for Tom Brady, and if something happens to Josh Gordon, now that something's already happened to Antonio Brown, or if this injury to Julian Edelman's more serious, I think Dorsett steps up in a big way. He continues to post a weekly floor of 40 yards and a couple catches. And then he has these big games where he can get multiple touchdowns and over 100 yards. He has that boom potential. He's always been an athletic guy. He's shown that he can be a really good NFL wide receiver in the past. So the ceiling is what we're going for. And unlike a lot of our picks, he's got a weekly floor that when we hit buys and we know we need to just get points on the board, keep us in the running, he's a guy who brings us weekly floor and this huge upside potential just exploding for us. So we're hoping that he can be a wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside.
Absolutely. And people forget, too, this is a pedigree guy, a first-round pick out of the U, and this is a guy that was traded for now Indianapolis's franchise quarterback who the Colts just paid a boatload of money for in Jacoby Brissett. So, I mean, there is something there with with Dorsett, and we'll see if he can put it all together here. Certainly could be big things. Maybe not necessarily this week against Buffalo, but going forward, ceiling's pretty high, especially with that New England offense just wrecking it so far this season. Andrew, as long as we're talking about the Patriots, what kind of insight, and this is sort of an unfair question because I don't even think anybody can provide any insight on the Patriots backfield, but who's the one that you're looking to every week? Can you trust? Is there anyone that you'd be willing to trust going forward? Who's your favorite Patriots running back in this backfield right now between Michelle, James White, Harris, and Burkhead and Bolden?
It is such a hard question to answer. I think we always have a bit more insight after a couple of weeks into the season, where preseason you are just holding an empty bag and you have no idea what's going to happen. I would say that James White has shown in the past years that we should trust him, and we should have trusted him more going into the season. Granted, he sat out this week because of personal reasons, but I really believe that James White has like RB1 upside in PPR this year, and I wish we had him on more teams. And the Patriots are one of these backfields where they pass the running backs enough, they're scoring enough points, much like the Chiefs, which may come up later. You can start the second guy in that backfield, and you shouldn't be too worried about it. Yes, the floor may be really low on Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel, especially as Sony Michel continues to average under 2 yards per carry or whatever it is. But they have so much upside in terms of touchdowns, in terms of receptions, in terms of just overall touches, that they end up being RB1, RB2, RB3, guys that you can start in your flex position, and you shouldn't be too worried about it. They will, at the end of the day, they'll bring you more wins than they bring you losses.
I agree with that, Balky. I just can't get behind Sony Michel, no matter how much money Shoepacker thinks he should be.
Sony Michel, no matter what.
Yeah.
I was just telling John Terry in the chat that I own Sony. It's totally frustrating, and I was so thrilled in the one league I got him in. I was like, this is perfect because I went 0 RB, and he ended up being the running back I got in the 6th round. Like, this is awesome. I love this, and it's been terrible. It's been awful. And the only thing Sony Michel has done for me so far this year, Dave, is he's won me one I got 5 on it with you. That's been it. Has done nothing for my fantasy teams, done nothing else. Really unfortunate. We need to move on and talk about a backfield that actually has some production.
Yes, we're looking at the Chiefs backfield. This question is for Chris. Damian Williams is out this week. You got Shady McCoy. Shady looked pretty good. Very spry, scored a lot of points.
And he was allegedly hobbled, too.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
last
amazing.
week, yeah.
And Darrell Williams is another feller. Which one are you looking to start, or are you gonna look elsewhere? I mean, it's hard to avoid the Chiefs backfield if you have a chance at starting somebody there.
I agree, and I don't see how, because I think you're right, because I actually watched a lot of that game, and McCoy looked really spry, and I clearly, the Buffalo, I mean, he clearly has a little bit of gas left in the tank, and I think that for whatever reason, his relationship with Reed seems to energize, whether it's the offense, I suspect it's a lot of it, and it's also just getting the touches. I think also when you have receivers that they throw too deep a lot, the Chiefs sort of and so much attention is paid to Kelsey. I think that really opens up for the other backs. I thought that unfortunately I always call him the other Williams, but I thought he played very well too. But I don't think he doesn't seem to have instinctually the same sort of thing that comes with being a NFL. I wouldn't say all pro, but whatever you want to call it. Shady McCoy has had a really distinguished, very good career. To me, I still think McCoy's the guy.
Yeah, McCoy. I mean, more talented player for sure. I would think over. I mean, he's had the career. Maybe he's a little bit slower, but he's definitely more talented than Darrell Williams, right?
Right. Yeah, no question.
Right.
I mean, they're different types of running backs. You know what was so frustrating for me last week? I was going to meet my co-host Leo, Dave, to watch the Packers-Broncos game. And I was all set. I was like going to pound out a quick workout and then go meet at the establishment we agreed upon. And then I get an update on my phone from Adam Teicher from ESPN. Well, if pregame warm-ups are any guideline, it looks like Darrell Williams is getting the start for Kansas City, followed by Darwin Thompson, and then LaShawn McCoy, who looked like he wasn't 100%. So then I had to make all these decisions. What am I going to do here? And I had to spend like another 20, 25 minutes going through all my lineups because I have a lot of those Chiefs running backs and tried to figure it out. And quite frankly, I hit it. Darrell Williams wasn't terrible last week. He caught some passes.
No, he wasn't.
it ended up being all right. And I'm not kidding. I can't remember who I have. I think this is a Breida team, and Breida's obviously on bye this week. I think my running backs I have in there right now are Darrell Williams and LaShawn McCoy.
Hey, that's all right.
Rolling with the Chiefs backfield this week, and we'll see how that ends up.
Hey, it works with the Chargers. Just ask Chris and Andrew.
Yeah, exactly. I hope the AFC West backfield double dip power. That's what I'm rolling with tonight. As we're talking with Chris and Andrew Whitney, the leaders in the Football Guys Players Championship heading into Week 3. Guys, got a couple of emails for you here. I'm going to let Andrew answer this first one, I think. No, I'm going to let Chris answer this first one. Excuse me. This will be for Chris.
Good.
Hey, guys, is Tyrell Williams a weekly flex play for you going forward, or should I be looking to do better than him for my Football Guys squad? Nice job in the FPC so far. That is Tom in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Thank you for the email, Tom in Laurinburg. Tyrell Williams seems to be like he's the number one receiver in Oakland right now. I know J.J. Nelson sort of stole some targets from him last week. But what do you think about Tyrell Williams here, Chris, going forward? I mean, is this a guy that can be an every week flex play?
I don't, but it's more about the offense that's there. I don't know why I sort of feel this, but when I watch the Raider games, I see an offense that the first week, every week, it seems to have just kind of trailed down, and maybe it's the opposition, but I suspect what's happened is that what I see is that they put more pressure on the pocket, and I think that makes it a lot harder for Carr. Now, Williams is has been more of a short routes guy that he was catches. I mean, he did catch one deep ball, I think, the first game, but I think the answer to that is no. I would not think of him as a weekly flex guy.
I like it. And Tyrell Williams, I think, like you said, when the matchup's right, sure, fire him up, but you can't be trotting him out there every single week. This next email, I'm gonna give this one to Andrew. It's from Steve in Marion, Maryland. What's up, Whitneys? I'm not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for Tariq Cohen's value, and with bye weeks hitting here, am I crazy to consider dropping him off my roster entirely? That is Steve in Marion, Maryland. Now, if push comes to shove, Andrew, would you be dropping Cohen?
That is a tough question. I'm a guy who loves just to roster worthless backup running backs, so hence why we have Deion Lewis and Ito Smith on our FFPC. So he's a guy who finished as a top 18 RB last year, and clearly the Bears haven't shown that this year. But Mitch Trubisky came on a bit later in the season last year. He ended up passing a bit more. I think it's worth to hold him for a little while longer and see what else happens. If David Montgomery, who got some good usage in the passing game this week, continues to do that going forward, then I would move on. But in the meantime, the upside is still there as this Bears team starts facing some potentially better offenses for competition, and they have to pass a bit more. I wouldn't move on from him unless it's a small league, shallow benches, and you have somebody really worthwhile off the waivers.
And I think the important thing to remember is, and this is a guy who collects running backs like it's going out of style. I love going heavy receiver right away and then just sort of collecting these running backs and waiting for, not that I'm rooting for people to get hurt, but let's face it, running back is a very rough position and they get hurt a lot. And even if Cohen maybe is not putting up great numbers right now, what happens if Montgomery gets hurt? What happens if even Mike Davis gets hurt? I mean, all of a sudden then there's an opportunity there. And the fact that Cohen has, Matt Nagy has split him out wide, he's put him in the slot, he moves him all over, makes him a valuable weapon. So I think you got to kind of stay the course on Tariq Cohen, even if you don't plan on deploying him until something, catastrophic to Montgomery or Davis were to happen. Dave, I feel like you don't have any Montgomery or Cohen in any of your leagues this year. Is that accurate?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Was that by design or just it didn't fall your way?
Kind of by design. I wasn't super huge on Montgomery, and then Cohen, because of Montgomery, I also wasn't all that high on him either. So I just kind of let him go. That's okay. I mean, sometimes that works out and I look great. Otherwise, I look like an idiot. And we'll see in 5 weeks. I might look like both.
Well, that would be really compelling. One final question for the Whitneys tonight before we let them go off into enjoying their weekend.
Yeah, we'll start with Andrew first. I don't know why we started with the young guy first. But I guess
we can go with Chris. It's your question. It's your call.
Age before beauty. Chris, you get to go first. We need an early round pick that you would consider benching in week 4, as well as a sleeper that should be started. So go ahead, Chris, first, and then Andrew can finish it off.
Well, I don't know how big a sleeper Metcalf is this week against the Cardinals, but I do very much like him. But I would say that in terms of early round pick who should be benched, I'm trying to. I know that's it. Andrew, you have any choice? This is where I usually ask Andrew. I usually ask the brains of the operation here.
Yeah, there you go.
Our early round picks are solid, so we don't think about this kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. No problem.
I've got two for you. Josh Jacobs on the Raiders going on the road against the Colts. The Raiders have shown that they wouldn't really use him in the passing game when they're losing. I think the Colts are 7-point favorites at home. That's a matchup that really worries me. Jacobs was always the guy who worried me, but I think kind of the worst issues are coming to a head. And another guy, just any receiver going up against the Bears, you should be a little bit worried about. This week it's the Vikings, so Stephon Diggs is the guy I'd be worried about. Just lack of target volume. He's going to need one big catch or a touchdown to really have a good week this week. So I think your reasonable ceiling or your median outcome is not that high. Guys I would start over him, I would turn to that the Redskins-Giants game, which has potential to just really be a barn burner, as neither one of these teams can really guard wide receivers. And hopefully both quarterbacks are willing to just chuck it downfield. So one guy who I'm actually playing in one of my main leagues is Paul Richardson, who, especially with Terry McLaurin, F1 or Scary Terry, whatever your choosing nickname is, he's a little banged up, so Paul Richardson could walk into a lot of targets in that offense. Or Cody Latimer, who just came out of the concussion protocol. There's always a little bit of worry. I'm always less worried about concussions versus a different type of physical injury, because you're not worried about an ankle seizing up again or a calf, whatever that is. Cody Latimer looked like the deep threat in the one game that I saw, and Eli Manning just could barely hit the broadside of a barn, it seemed. I'm wondering if Daniel Jones can maybe hook up with him a little bit more, and you can get some really good deep targets out of him. So that's a deep sleeper, guys who are hopefully on your waiver wire if you really need a weekly flex in here.
Actually, I'm glad you brought up Daniel Jones, because I have a who do I start question for Balky I'm going to do here. And he asked me this at work, and oddly enough, I didn't laugh at him, but I almost felt like I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah.
All right, and the question is, Tom Brady. Do you start Tom Brady at the Buffalo Bills with their excellent pass defense, or rookie quarterback Daniel Jones on the Giants against the Redskins in what could be a shootout? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm very high on Jones this week. I took him ahead of I picked him up on waivers, and in one of my leagues I'm playing him ahead of Jameis Winston and Cousins. I agree with that. I think he's going to have a big game with them. I think the Redskins, another team that just can't guard anybody. Frankly, you say throw it away from Josh Norman, but frankly, I don't know that you even need to say that anymore.
I feel mostly the same, and the Giants are airing it out this year. It's exciting, and hopefully Daniel Jones can keep up the pace he's been on. I'd be a little encouraged as a Giants fan, which I did not think I would be saying coming into the season.
All right, so real quick, while you guys were talking, I just looked up on Footballguys.com. These are subscriber projections. So somebody owes David Dodds 20 cents.
No. You can give a taste. The taste is always fine.
Here's a little taste. He has Tom Brady as the number 8 quarterback in PPR this week with 22.1 points, and just beneath him, Daniel Jones with 21.8 points. So he has Brady over Jones, but it's
very close.
Super close. So it's a really interesting. Fun conversation to have, actually.
I was doing it. I do this local fantasy show here in Northeast Wisconsin on Thursday, and I said I haven't made the switch yet in my lineups, and I'm facing this decision in at least 2 leagues, maybe 3, and I said I have to psych myself up for it. Like I can't. I'm not prepared to do it right now. So it's either going to take a good amount of Red Bull, a good amount of alcohol, or both on Sunday morning if I get that piped into my system. Which, by the way, is usually a safe bet. I
Oh, yeah.
I
Talk to your therapist first.
Football Sundays, it just happens. So we'll see what happens on that. Right now I have Brady in there, but I have not closed the door on that officially yet. Dave said Brady. You guys are both saying Jones over Brady?
I'm absolutely, yes.
Sweet. I like it.
Let's say Jones. It'll be fun. It'll be more fun. Football's about having some fun.
Exactly. Just do it, Balky.
All right. Well, I will take it under advisement. I love having fun, so maybe I'll make the switch before we go off the airwaves tonight. Listen, this has been fun, guys. Chris and Andrew Whitney leading the Football Guys Players Championship heading into Week 3. Best of luck to you guys this season in all your leagues, especially the Football Guys, as you try to take down that $250,000 grand prize. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again real soon, all right?
Thanks for having
you, guys.
us. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank
We're all
you,
ready
Chris.
for Daniel Jones this week. So.
Exactly. Yes, no question. Daniel Jones. Who would have thunk it? How crazy is that?
Who thought it? The Giants front office. Gettleman. He should be running victory laps.
Dave Gettleman has his shoes off.
Yeah. He should have a picture.
He's wearing the socks on his feet. They're propped up on his desk, and he's smoking a cigar right now.
No, I envision for him that he should tweet out where it's like remember how you ever see those bumper stickers where it's like a little kid taking a pee on like a Ford or something? He should have like the Twitter bird, him like pissing all over the Twitter bird as like, hey, I'm David Gettleman. I drafted Daniel Jones. Everyone can piss off.
I don't remember. I'm not even going to try to attribute this to somebody, but one of the GMs, and I don't even know if it was football or it was probably football or baseball. And he once said, if you start thinking like the fans and making the decisions that the fans want, sooner or later you're going to be sitting up in the stands next to them.
That's pretty funny.
Which is accurate. Yeah. You gotta believe in yourself. And even though you're a GM and not a fantasy guy, Dave, you know what you still got to do? You got to get your guys.
Yeah, and what you have to do is you have to be drafting like the Patriots at the end of the first round and always draft linemen all the time. Just draft linemen, some linemen, once in a while safety, and then grab all the other guys later.
I think that was a staple of Ted Thompson, but, back in the glory days of Ted Thompson before he kind of lost it, they always liked drafting big athletic guys on offensive and say they always had strong guys on the offensive and defensive lines.
I always thought that you could kind of do well drafting like the top safety or one of the top guards or centers late in the first if that's where you're at. Because, it's not a premium position.
Yeah,
not considered a premium position, but it's an important job.
Safety, I think, now is.
Yeah, that's true. But at the time, for a long time, it was not.
No, it was not. And there's no hard and fast rules, but I think you're spot on with that. How do you feel about answering some emails tonight?
Oh, I can't wait. I love it.
If you've got a question for Eric, Dave, or tonight's guest, send them a tweet at HSFF Hour on Twitter. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Post it in the chat room during the broadcast. Hashtag your tweet with HSFF or just smack Eric in the head. That's highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com or at HSFF Hour on Twitter.
I'm going to kick things off with Lenny in Detroit, Dave. Can you guys play a Would You Rather with Terry McLaurin for Week 4 only? Appreciate you. Andrew brought this up on our interview. The two nicknames that Terry McLaurin has, and I know where you're going to fall on this, has sort of been attributed to.
One sucks.
Scary Terry or F1? Which one do you prefer?
Neither one's that great.
I think F1's better than Scary Terry.
Yeah, Scary Terry is really bad. Except for October, it's solid because it's Halloween month.
Except for what?
October, Halloween month.
Yeah? Scary Terry, I get it, yeah.
God, welcome to the show.
Yeah, sorry.
That just actually shows you how bad the nickname is.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. All right, so now Terry McLaurin is hurt. He is expected to go this week, Dave. I'm going to pitch some Would You Rathers. Who would you rather start this week? For reference's sake, Terry McLaurin is at the New York Giants in a game with a total of 48.5, and they are 3-point dogs. Would you rather start Terry McLaurin or Christian Kirk?
Kirk. Kirk had like 12 targets last week.
Yeah, he was great. Terry McLaurin or
plus Kirk is down Crabtree, which is no big deal, and Damier Bird is out. This week, actually, Keyshawn Johnson and my
Andy Isabella.
My boy Isabella. Hopefully he's going to get some run. I mean, all they do is, this is a little semi-rant, but all they do is throw these little dinky crap passes. Why don't you put the 4-3-1 guy out there in 4 wide receiver sets? Go ahead.
All right. Terry McLaurin or a suddenly banged up and questionable Calvin Ridley? Calvin Ridley,
so,
by the way, at home against the Titans.
Yeah, so they're both playing. I mean,
they should both be playing.
If
yes.
they're both playing, man, Ridley had a bad game last week,
yes, he did.
And also Tennessee's pass defense is solid, so I might actually roll out McLaurin until I see Ridley get well.
I'm going to agree with you on McLaurin there. Terry McLaurin or Tyrell Williams at the Colts.
I know we talked about Williams as not being this every week guy, but I think he kind of is an every week guy. I think Tyrell Williams, he's the number one receiver for the team. It's not a great team, but Derek Carr is not a total pile of crap, regardless of the Maybelline deal. I'll start Tyrell Williams.
I think I'm still going to lean McLaurin there. Here's an interesting one: Terry McLaurin or Josh Gordon at the Bills.
I'm always inclined not to start Gordon. I just don't trust him at all. He has a lot of crappy weeks. I'm going to start – I can't believe I'm saying this, but, I'm going to start McLaurin, I guess.
I agree. McLaurin or your boy Curtis Samuel at the Texans.
With Kyle Allen throwing to him, I know he had a good week last week. Oh, man. What's over? I wonder what the over-under is in that Houston game. Probably like 45.
I will. If you give me 5 seconds, I can tell you. It is going to be 47.
I'm going to start Samuel. I think I'm just going to lean that direction. I know I could see easily going the other way.
I'm going to go McLaurin. Last one.
Samuel's healthy. That's the thing. Is I don't have to worry about him limping off and leaving the game.
Right. Yeah, now he'll probably get hurt.
Well, that could happen.
That's foot injury.
But nevertheless, he's currently not having that issue.
Final one, Terry McLaurin or Stephon Diggs at the Bears.
Oh, God. I hate to do – I'm going to start Diggs. Diggs.
Really?
Yeah, Diggs is a guy you drafted in the third round. I can get it. He's not doing great. But sometimes, you have these guys where you just bench them, and all of a sudden, what if you benched Devontae Adams last night? Granted.
Why the hell would you bench Devontae Adams?
Well, why the hell would you bench Stephon Diggs?
Because he's playing like crap, and it's a horrible matchup.
Yeah, going into this past week, Adams was playing like crap, and it was not a great. Well, it was actually.
It was an awesome matchup.
But okay, so fine. But nevertheless, I got 5 on Diggs over McLaurin. If you're that adamant about it,
I'm adamant, baby.
I don't even love Diggs that much.
I have 5 on McLaurin outscoring Stephon Diggs this week. Are we going to put in a qualifier that they both have to be active?
Yeah, they both have to be.
All right. I got 5 on it.
I got 5 on it. I got 5 on it. Now, speaking of, I got 5 on it, bet you and
I forgot to do this.
Against the chat room.
Yeah.
It's Wasp Guy and John Terry that we're going up against.
Yeah, so
we Paris Campbell lovers.
During the interview, for anybody who was not listening to the show live, we were going back and forth on Paris Campbell. Now, and we didn't put a qualifier on this, and I don't think these guys will care if we include it, and we should. Well, let's not activate this bet unless T.Y. Hilton is inactive.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Hilton's doubtful, but yeah,
he's probably not going to play. But let's make it official.
That's a nice little fake concession.
Well, and I think that's that was the whole.
Was just assumed.
That was assumed, yeah. But we'll officially put it in there. Paris Campbell, Dave, and I have under 12 points this week, FFPC points. If Hilton is inactive, Kern, Wasp Guy, Reeve, and John Terry and Jemima have over 12 points, and Dave and I have 5 on it.
Yeah, we got 5 on it. And they said it in the chat room. I got 5 on it.
This is a 4-way bet, right?
I got 5 on it.
Sorry, just one more.
I got 5 on it. It's great. It's almost like you're scratching. You're like DJ Right.
That is the extent of my DJ capabilities right there.
Hit pause and unpause.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah, no, that's basically it. All right, moving on here. Paris Campbell, 12. We got the under, and that's with JT and HKR. All right. What's your read on Mark Andrews' foot injury, and is he a guy that should be on my bench more often than my starting lineup until he's healthy? That's Joe in Grand Prairie, Texas. Dave, we always had this old –
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Mark Andrews' foot injury.
Oh, yeah.
We always had this old adage of if a guy practices on Friday, he's, feel free to start him. And I think John Harbaugh has sort of thrown that into the ocean, never to come back. And what I mean by that is Mark Andrews he's gone weeks where he's practiced on Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday or Friday. He's practiced on Thursday and Friday, didn't practice on Wednesday. He's practiced on Wednesday and Thursday and not Friday. You know what I mean? Like it's so bizarre. But Mark Andrews
he's already getting the Gronk treatment. That's how good he is.
But now here's the thing with Andrews. Can't remember what beat reporter was talking about this. But they said that Andrews looked like he was hobbling around pretty good in warm-ups last week. And last week was really...
Oh, yeah, that's always the warm-ups guy. Was it a tweet? Just like your other
I think it was a tweet.
McCoy was the third guy in line?
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
And so, but last week was sort of his first bad week, and that was the only game, or that was the only report we heard of him hobbling around. You look at what Mark Andrews has done so far this season: 8 for 108 and a touchdown in week 1, 8 for 112 and a touchdown in week 2. Reports of him hobbling around 3 for 15 and no touchdowns in week 3 in a game that featured 61 total points at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. So my question to you is, while Mark Andrews has been sort of a set-it-and-forget-it guy after week 1, I don't know if he's still retaining that status anymore, and I think you have to seriously consider benching a guy like him, given what we saw last week, of course, dependent upon what your other options are. Ravens are 7-point favorites at home against the Cleveland Browns this week. Total is 45.
I actually disagree with you, and the reason is that he went 3 for 15 last week, but he did have 7 targets. So the week before, he went 8 for 112 on 9 targets. So 7 versus 9, it's not that much of a drop. It's a little bit. And that Boyle guy had a couple of targets, or a number of them.
Yeah, which, by the way, in the nobody cares about the Scott Fish Bowl.
Got that right. Go ahead.
Gary Davenport, Fantasy Sharks, dropped David Njoku this week to pick up Nick Boyle.
Okay.
I picked up Njoku right away. I'm like,
oh yeah, you can just pick him up.
Yeah, you can just pick him up.
Yeah.
And that way, by the time I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is 4 hours after he dropped him. Somebody picked him up. No, nobody did.
Funny.
I mean, for Nick Boyle, man, like that's just.
Yeah, I mean,
he had to be desperate.
Yeah, if you have the depth. I mean, so back to that. I mean, I'm looking at the rankings of, Andrews is still ranked like 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. I mean, who are you starting over him? I mean, like again, back to football guys, I see Kelsey, Ingram, Waller, and Ertz. And Ertz already played.
Okay, here's one. Can I fire one at you?
Sure.
Mark Andrews at home against the Browns or at Texans, Greg Olsen?
Andrews.
Really?
Well, that's what Dodd says. I'm just kidding. I'm just looking at the rankings. I
Olsen's been white hot the last couple weeks.
He's been crushing it.
Although his matchups last 2 weeks were a lot better than his matchup this week.
I could see starting Olsen. I absolutely could.
I asked this guy
Austin Hooper too. He's the next guy below, and he had 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns last week?
He's been awesome. And actually, in the Scott Fish Bowl, I've had Greg Olsen and Austin Hooper.
Skip.
So great.
At our other job, sometimes we say skip when Balky starts telling stories. Right. So I'm going to have to start doing that.
Put up a 295 last week.
But you did?
Yeah.
In the Fish Bowl?
Yeah, but I lost Saquon Barkley, so it's going to be rough sledding now. And Justin Jackson.
What does that pay out first place?
I don't know.
Is that a steak knife?
No, it's something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what. I have no idea. Let me ask you this. I asked the guys.
Donald Driver autograph.
It's not a Packers. It's a nationwide league. Let me ask you this. I asked my local guys on the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show this week, if we were redrafting today, what number tight end is Darren Waller off the board?
Like 2?
Is he 2?
I mean, yeah.
Just so you take Kelsey ahead of him, and
so if your season starts tomorrow or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Maybe he's 2, 3, or 4. I mean, he's right there.
So I'm just curious, who would you take ahead of him? Kelsey and who else?
Kelsey, and then I would still consider Ertz and Kittle. I mean, it's still early.
Would you take Evan Engram ahead of Darren Waller?
Probably not. But he's in that. I haven't. I've had 7 seconds to think about it, but in those 7 seconds, I mean, Waller's getting so many targets.
That's why we get paid the big bucks on this show.
He's effectively the number 1 receiver there, and he's getting so many targets. He looks unbelievable. I wish I owned him in some more leagues.
Wash guy says Engram over Waller.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense.
Don Terry says he's top 4. No question there. Let's go to Bill in Enfield, Connecticut. Dear Priest and Larry, you guys should come up with some sort of game to play with the Kansas City backfield every week like Chiefs running back roulette. Anyway, I am sort of asking you which one to play. Love your show. Bill in Enfield, Connecticut. We touched on this with the Whitneys earlier. Yes, start Priest Holmes. We touched on this earlier with the Whitneys. I'm playing McCoy and Darrell Williams. I can't conceivably play Darwin Thompson. We know Damian Williams is still out. If I had to pick one, I think you would agree with me. It's McCoy over Darrell Williams.
Yeah, you got to go with. I think you just go with the veteran player who's really good. I mean, I feel that same way. Even if Devin Singletary plays this week,
I think he's going to. By the way,
I still think. I actually feel like Gore. Everyone jokes around, but every year Frank Gore is like an RB2. Yep. I think he might be an RB2 again this year. He'll be like the 24th best running back with all the time Singletary misses. And that Gore was a great pickup for anybody.
Oh, you think Singletary is going to continue getting hurt?
He's also not that good. I mean, if you look at his mock draftable score, his highest ranking anything was, I think, the vertical leap at the 57th percentile. Go to mockdraftable.com and type in Devin Singletary, and you've never seen a more scrunched up. It looks like a
It looks like
Looks
Pluto.
like someone's constipated.
Pluto in the solar system. Don't go there.
The
Nope.
pediatrician would look at their buttocks, and it's like they're all scrunched up.
Looks like a balloon knot.
and then type in like Calvin Johnson, and it's like a pancake. I mean, it's a huge thing.
It's massive.
So
see what he said this week about the opioids?
No, he said what he likes. He enjoys them. He's got to be retired. Not under the mandate.
He didn't really say it in the story I read, but I think part of the reason he retired was because he preferred smoking weed because he smoked. He said he smoked weed after every game, as opposed to the pills and everything that as opposed to the pills and everything that they were offered. Mm-hmm. And he actually owns a cannabis company now too, or he's part owner in a cannabis company. Wasp guy in the chat room, Darwin Thompson or Tony Pollard in a desperation flex. Dave, you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, Pollard had a great game last week. I think I'm going Pollard.
Tony Pollard is at New Orleans this week. I guess it could be a shootout. I'm going to look up the total of that game. Dallas Cowboys, 2.5-point favorites, 47. I thought it'd be a little bit higher.
Third guy in live versus Pollard's the second guy in live.
I think it's Pollard. Yeah, you're right. All right, final email of the night is from Phil in Atlanta. Hey, Balky and Dave, I was surprised I got Gallman off waivers this week, but everyone else in my league must hate him a little more than I do. Would you play him over McCole Hardman against the Lions? And for refresher's sake, Gallman is at home against the hapless Deadskins this week as he battles Washington as the starting running back. Dave, if you only had one flex spot available, are you going to play Wayne Gallman against the Redskins, or are you going to play McCole Hardman against the Lions?
Actually, that's a pretty tough question because I think Hardman's talented.
Yep.
I think Gallman actually kind of sucks as far as talent goes. So now you have to question, okay, so Gallman's going to get all these touches and so forth. Originally, I was thinking Gallman because I like to have the higher floor player, but I think I'm going to roll out McCole Hardman.
I'm going to agree with you. I think it's close, but I'm going to go with Hardman. You know, just give me the guy who's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. If Hardman has an 80-yard touchdown, he could have one in the first quarter, he could have one in the third quarter, he could have one in the fourth quarter. I just don't see Gallman having a 70-yard touchdown. Now, of course, what's going to happen is he's going to have one right away, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. But whatever, that's fine.
No, we'll see. I mean, Washington's. You know, people talk about how terrible Washington is. I think that defense kind of gets thrown under the bus a little bit more than they should.
Yeah, I don't think they're that bad, actually. I really don't think so.
I don't think we were that bad tonight. I know our guests weren't. I want to thank them, no question. Andrew and Chris Whitney, the Week 3 leaders in the Footballguys Players Championship, joining us on the show tonight. Certainly appreciate everything that they brought to the table. I want to thank Dave Gerzak. I want to thank the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, of course, each and every one of you for spending your Friday night with us. We will be back next week, 10-9 Central, with the current overall leader in the Footballguys Players Championship, Jeff Volk, will join us next week at 10-9 Central. We'll talk to him. Remember to check out the High Stakes Lowdown, rotoviz.com/podcast. You can listen to the Rob Vieira episode as well as the Bill Querbees episode. Plenty of time to get those in before kickoff on Sunday when you have to have those lineups set. Thanks so much for listening. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
We're on the cement floor, even more so if we on tour. Me and E explore the country, wondering about the evening before. Trying to explain where the time went, while other rappers find a studio to grind in.
Hey, I should have, I'll extend the invitation right now because I saw the,
come over to your house for the weekend football with all the games?
You can, but here's the issue with that. I'll get into that in a second. I saw my good buddy the Baker at Lambeau last night, Meander Field.
Oh, yeah.
And I was with Troublemaker El Grande, our buddy Butch. And I will see Butch tomorrow at Oktoberfest, so I'm officially extending you the invite if you'd like to come to Oktoberfest tomorrow.
Oh, thanks. I'll have to check into it.
Okay, let me know.
What time are you going?
My kid gets done playing flag football at 9:40, and we're going to head down right after that. No, yeah, 9:40 a.m., excuse me. And hold on, and the kids and I will be down there till probably about like 12:30, and then they are going home with Grandma and Grandpa, and Mrs. Balky and I are staying out there.
Very good.
So we'll be out there. I believe Leo and Nico are going to be down there. You'll get to meet them.
So, how long do you guys stay there?
We're gonna. The whole thing wraps up at 6, and then after 6,
then people just get bombed and go to the
people
local bars.
go into the bars because they clear the roads out. It's insane. They clear the roads out, Dave, and they have the street sweepers come on while all these drunks are going into the bars. And then I think we're going out to Troublemaker El Grande's house for a cookout, which you're more than welcome to come
all right.
to.
It sounds like a very long day.
It's going to be a long day.
All right.
So?
Well,
yes?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, let me know.
I'm probably, maybe not. I don't know.
Sunday.
You're a great guy. I love to hang out with you. That's a long day of hanging out and drinking
all right,
all day.
That's fine. However, Sunday, I have to take my kid to a birthday party in Greenville.
Is the show still going?
Yes, it is, for a pool party. And then my wife has to go to a baby shower. So I am probably not available to watch games during the day.
That's
However,
totally
if
fine.
you wanted to go out for the Cowboys-Saints game Sunday night with the baker, I'm in.
All right, we'll see.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good. See you later.
Thanks for putting up with this, everybody.
Oh, my God.
Enjoy your weekend.